Hey everybody, and welcome. Today's support video is going to take us through factoring by grouping. So hopefully this will help you on the last example or two here where we have to do this. Just a little bit of review from things that you've seen in the past, Algebra 2 and Algebra 1. So factoring by grouping, basically the goal of this is we are trying to get two terms that are the same. So the easiest way to explain that is basically if you have four separate terms in a polynomial, divide them out into two separate groups. So here's one group, and here's a second group. And with each of these groups individually, you're going to want to take as much out as you can. So you're going to try to get to the GCF, if possible. So GCF, looking at these two things individually, if we're just looking at our yellows, remember we broke these down last year quite a bit. So x to the third would be 3x's, and then minus 2x would be 2 is just 2 times 1, and then x squared would be also 2x's. So if we take a look at this, we're going to see what do they have in common? Well, they each have 2 x's in common. So that means that we're allowed to take those 2 x's out. So we can take x squared out. Now what's left on the inside is everything that's not circled, that's not used. So I'll circle that in green. We haven't used this x, we haven't used this minus sign, and we haven't used this 2. So by doing this, we've accounted for everything that we highlighted in yellow. We've just rearranged it. We're going to do the same thing now for our blue terms. So 5 and x, well, it's just 5 and x. Can't really break it down any further. We have our minus sign, and then for 10, we can break 10 down into 5 and 2, because 5 times 2 is 10. So here, just like before, we're going to circle things that are the same. So you can circle a 5 here. And what's left over is everything that we haven't circled. So an x, a minus sign, and a 2. And additionally, we want to bring this sign here right down. So what we've done is we've basically broken this up into two groups, and inside of our parentheses now we have the same term. So what factoring by grouping lets us do is we can take that same term that's in parentheses and leave it in parentheses, and then we can take the terms that are in front, including their signs, and also put them in parentheses. So that x squared plus 5 as well. So what this lets us do is change this, the operation from addition to directly next to each other to multiplication. And that is factoring by grouping. So take the GCF out, find those common pairs, and then factor by grouping. Now the power of doing something like this is you can set it equal to 0, and then set each of your parentheses equal to 0 if in pre-calculus you're solving for an x-intercept, for example. But this is just review on factoring by grouping. So hopefully this helps if you factor by grouping, and remember, take it to that next step. Set each of these individually equal to 0, and you should get an answer, an x equals answer, and that would be what we're looking for in pre-calc, your x